Okay, I figured you guys might want to see me put together a pair of those Hasp cuffs that I have for the contest. This is a set that I've already dyed, cut, and edged in a brown, and they are pretty much ready. I applied a super sheen to it, which kind of gives it a nice sheen to it. I was using a top finish for a while, but at this point in time I'm kind of stopping with that because it kind of comes off, and I'm not too happy with how it actually can rub off. Alright, so let's grab tools. You notice I happen to have my rivets nice and handy. And the first thing I'm going to do is put the plate. Let me grab plates from behind me if I don't fall. Basically, I'm going to put 2 plates right here. So, let's clean up here. Let me find my appropriate tools. This is what happens when you don't necessarily clean up after yourself. Alright, this is a hole maker. It's basically a punch. And you've got your single piece, and you've got a bunch of different sized punches. I've actually got 2 of these. A whole nother punch. It's over there, but that one actually has much bigger ones. But each one screws in and has a slightly different hole size. So with this one, I know the rivets I'm generally going to use, so this punch will work just fine. So in this one, I already know where I'm going to place it, and I'm going to place it right here. So what I do is I kind of mark the holes, and it's pretty simple. I just hold it, and you've got yourself a hole. What happens is the leather that comes out there gets pushed up through here and comes out here. So it kind of gets ejected almost like a what is it? Shell from a gun. You'll notice I've got all of these here. That's basically all of the punches. Alright, we've got the holes. And these don't have to be 100% perfect because, frankly, if they're off-center a little bit and all of that, it actually sometimes works better if they're not 100%, because if you got it centered, this might move. If you got them off in the corners a little bit, sometimes it actually holds the plate better. So I'm trying to remember if I'm using these. There's a lot of different types of rivets. And basically I'm just popping it through, and I can never remember this. I might have to use the smaller rivets. Of course, that's the ultra small. I accidentally bought in like extra small size and mixed them with my medium small size. Yeah, I know. It's kind of amusing. And I have to try and find ones that way you don't see a bunch of rivets with a smaller size head. Like you'll see there, they're slightly smaller. And smaller. So one of these days I may have to go through this thing and find the itty bitty rivets. And there we go. 4 rivets for that. And this is where the anvil comes in. If you notice, the little anvil for Dominion leather. I just thought it was iconic and unique. Alright, so here, what I'm going to end up doing is I get a bunch of these, which are the bottom part of the rivet. The first one you usually do separately. Then it can be a little hard at times. Wind it up. Find my. Here we go. This is the punch. I hit it like this, and this has got a concave end, so it doesn't dent the top of the rivet, because these are what are called domed, double-capped domed rivets, meaning there's a cap on both sides. There's a type of rivet like this that doesn't. It's got a cap on the top like that, but this one has just a hole on the bottom. Basically, bang, done. And it flattened out the bottom. The top is still concave. So at this point in time, I usually go to the opposite side, corner, and find my rivet top. Kind of squeeze it in, because it'll pop in a little bit. Usually you don't need to hit it more than once. A good solid hit, and that's all you need. When I first started this, I was hitting it multiple times, and one of the things I also found is I was using rivets that were too big. I'll show you what might happen if you do that. I'll finish this top and I'll actually show you what happens when you use a rivet that's too long. It does what I call travel. Oops. I've got big old thumbs, and sometimes putting these little itty bitty rivets in can be a little bit on the challenging side. Alright, here we go. We've got our Hasp. It's not coming off. But I'll show you an example of using a rivet that's way too big for... here we go. This is a piece of scrap leather that I've used multiple times. I'll show you an example. I'm going to use one of these really long, if I can't drop it, one of these really long rivets. I'll shove it through here, the big cap. You notice something. Look at the size. When it ends up happening is it travels laterally. It'll move like one way or the other. When you look at it from the side, they're vertical now, but one will move one way, one will move the other way. And that's something that I learned the hard way when I first started. Granted, this is an extreme example. I think you could see how far that traveled to the side. What'll end up happening, I bet you I could probably pull this off, with my hand. Or maybe not. I just happen to get that in there. But that's an example of a rivet that's way too big. And on this piece of leather, using this rivet would be too big, because you see how it sticks out? What you want is a rivet that barely pokes through the leather. Alright, let's do the other one real quick. I hope y'all are actually finding these little videos interesting. I actually hit that one where I should have done this first. The reason why I pull it off instead, and of course I didn't do it on that first one, is you end up getting a bunch of the marks from this being pushed down on the leather. And now that I put this on there, hopefully I can line it up properly so it sits. Then trying to find the larger of the mini rivets. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the rivet tops. Alright. Let's go over here. Like I said, I had made the mistake of putting them in the same bin. When I bought them, I didn't even realize there was a smaller size. You learn something every day. Alright, let's do the next one. I love my little mini anvil. I know it technically a lot of times doesn't mean leather working. A lot of times it has more of a connotation for metal working, but I don't care. This thing is one of the best buys I ever made. It's big. It's about 2 pounds. I could actually mount it if I wanted to, but I constantly move stuff on this table, so I haven't. Let's make sure I'm still recording, just out of curiosity. Yes, I am. I would hate to be continuing talking to myself. This is, it's a completely unique type of cuff. I'm not going to say I invented it, because I didn't. But, you know, my design is my design, you know, based off of hardware that I can find. You know, one of the hardest problems with doing something like this is a lot of times it's finding the appropriate hardware to... Okay, this is not cooperating. Trying to get the top in. One of the hardest things is finding an appropriate hardware to do what you want to do. And there we go. Like I said, just one hit and that was all. This type of cuff right here will get approximately somebody who's got a 9-inch wrist to slightly below 7-inch. Just slightly. I mean, I could probably add a few more. I've designed this more for a guy similar to my size, because I've got an 8-inch wrist. Alright, so the next piece, and it will take a little bit more time. This is the holder for the D-ring. I'll go grab 2 D-rings. These are welded nickel D-rings. This gets a little bit harder, trying to make sure, because, how do I explain this? I design my collars, cuffs, and all of that so their natural state is actually in a circle, whether it's on the neck or cuffs and all of that. When it's flat, it will not be as happy. Basically what will happen is leather will bunch up, you'll see gaps and things like that. Because the whole point is, these things are meant to be worn, right? So they should be in their best form, in their best position when they're in the circle. So what I have to do is this. I usually attach one side first, and then I will end up bending it slightly, because what will happen is if I put this on completely flat, what will end up happening when I start to turn, you end up getting a lump here where the D-ring is. Very uncomfortable. So I design it to have enough of a gap to where there's no lump there. So first thing I'm going to do is, let's see, that is appropriately centered. So in this case, I'm doing it through 2 layers. And I don't like to do 2 holes first. There's 2 layers of leather, so I'm using a slightly larger rivet. You see that it doesn't have much of a head sticking out. You'll notice that this rivet is actually a little bit bigger. I don't even remember what I was talking about a minute ago. I won't bother showing you doing the second one. I'll just show you this first one so you can actually see the end result. Alright, so this is where it gets, as I say, a little fun. And I end up having to use the edge of the table to force the leather down. Alright, so like I said, the cuff is meant, or collar or whatnot, is meant to be in a circle. So I'm trying to design it to where when it's in a circle, you don't have a bulge here where my finger is wiggling. So a lot of times what I have to do that is put it on the side of the table and push it around kind of like in a circle, and then hold it and put in my first Once I get the first one, it makes it a lot easier to do the next, because it won't line up if I don't bend it. But so many of these tools look almost exactly the same, and I don't know how many times I've been looking around my table for the tool that's sitting right here in front of me, because I see 15 tools that look almost exactly the same. My wife made a comment that I should have an apron. And frankly, she might be onto something. Who knows, maybe I have to make myself a leather worker's apron with a bunch of pockets and stuff. Frankly, it would protect my clothes from dye too. There we go. What do you think? Well, take care all. Have a nice day.